You know, it's pretty embarrassing when you get so mad at your husband that you punch him, and he's so tough, he doesn't even get a bruise, and I end up with this. No, seriously. My husband Ron is my best friend, and I've never punched him, nor has he me. Some of you know what really happened to my hand, and many of you ask about it every week. I feel so cared for by the people in this room, and I know you are concerned. Thus, I'd like to share the story with everyone and give you an update. A few months ago, on December 3rd, I was walking on some wet pavement, carrying some heavy items, when all of a sudden my feet went out from under me. As I came to the ground, my wrist landed on top of a clay flower pot, shattering it in several pieces and slicing my wrist open about 2 inches by 1 inch, about the size of a domino. Immediately, blood came gushing out. Thank God my husband Ron was not out of town or even across town, but was just a few feet away from me. He elevated my arm, found a towel to apply pressure to stop the bleeding, and when the ambulance arrived and got me strapped in, the bleeding had stopped. At the emergency room, the doctor looked at my laceration, sewed me up, said I would be fine, and sent me home that night. The next day I was perplexed as to why I had no feeling in my thumb, my index finger, or my middle finger. I thought for sure the anesthesia should have worn off by now. That week I went to 4 doctors in search of answers, and the 4th doctor, who happens to be one of the best hand specialists in Portland, informed me that I had severed my median nerve. This is the carpal tunnel nerve that connects our thumb and our 2 fingers here. He said I needed surgery immediately and happened to have an opening the next morning. I took the slot and had surgery to repair my nerve. He also found I had severed 4 tendons, and he sought to repair those as well in my surgery. I wore a cast for several days, and then I was put into this splint. Initially, the splint was on the outside of my arm to protect my hand and my wrist, as well as to allow healing. Then a few weeks ago, my occupational therapist flipped my splint to this side of my arm, reshaped it to extend the tissues back in my wrist and the area between my finger and my thumb, which are limited right now. It's kind of like what braces do to straighten teeth. I wear this splint all throughout the night while I sleep, as well as 3 hours during the day, and it can be quite painful, especially when I sleep. When I'm not torturing myself with this splint, I am torturing myself with this machine. It looks like a walkie-talkie. It's called a neuromuscular electrical stimulator. And what I do is I take these electrodes and put them on my arm right over where my nerves run, and I turn on the machine to electrical voltage that is intense, irritating, but tolerable. This sends electricity down my arm through my fingers and is to help with a connection in my nerves. I do this 20 minutes at a time, 3 times a day. Bones typically take 4 to 6 weeks to heal. Nerves take 6 to 12 months. They grow about the rate of our hair. And so this will take a while for my nerves to fully connect, if they do. The good report that I have is that about a month ago, my nerves were feeling less, and now the occupational therapist says I have a little bit more feeling than I did a month ago. When I'm not hooked up to this machine or in my splint, I do exercises to strengthen my hand and my grip, like this sponge. Or this Cajun seasoning that I found in my kitchen is the perfect width to hold on to and to squeeze to extend the area between my finger and my thumb. It's called the web. This is the furthest I can extend it right now. And then as far as making a fist goes, this is the best fist that I can make. And for my wrist, of course, this is a normal extension, and this is as far back as I can extend it. It's a lot of work to do all these things. It's been inconvenient. It's also been a huge interruption to my normal routine and pace. But is it worth it? I decided when I first began this recovery that I needed to be faithful and disciplined if I was to actually have the hope of having a fully functioning hand again. And as far behind as I've been in my responsibilities in my office and at home, this has to be my top priority. There have been benefits to my limitations, like right after my surgery when I saw my family pull together and take over the areas of cooking and cleaning and caring for me and driving me to the doctor's office. Also, there have been funny experiences, like the funniest one is when Ron was trying to figure out, as I was trying to guide him, in how to put pantyhose on for me. It was the night after my surgery, and I had this enormous cast all the way up to my elbow. It was also the opening night for our daughter Katie's performance at the Nutcracker, and I wanted to wear a dress. She was already at the theater, otherwise I would have asked her to help me. And he is trying to figure out how such a tiny pair of pantyhose can fit over 2 adult legs and up and over the waist. He says to me, "Why in the world do you wear these things? How can you stand it that they are so tight and they pull over half your body?" After struggling for quite a while, we finally get them up and over my waist, only to discover there's a huge run down one side of the leg. Reluctantly, he takes them off and starts over again, over one set of toes and legs, over the other set of toes and legs, up and over everything. And wouldn't you know, somewhere in that process, another run happened in one of the legs. I say, "Oh well, let's keep these on and hope no one notices." What have I learned? I've learned to type with one hand, drive with one hand. I've also learned that I am in the middle of this process and this journey. Believing that hindsight is 20/20, there will be things I understand a whole lot better after this is all over. That's why I've titled the speech Part 1. I expect there to be a Part 2 where I will gain insights that I can share that I just don't have now. But I would like to leave you with one thought, and that is, it is imperative that I am faithful and disciplined with what is before me and what's been given to me. Is this not true in other areas of my life and yours? If you and I have a worthy goal, we must do the things required to achieve it, even if it's hard work, even if it's an interruption or we don't feel like doing it some days, even if at times it is painful. Endurance and patience will pay off if we keep our eyes on our goal and take the steps needed to get there. For me, it's a full functioning hand again. For you, it's something different. I will cheer you on, and I thank you for cheering me on.